So here's kind of a funny story. I was just at an event here put on by Microsoft. There's my little name tag there with the magnetic memory method. It was a lot of fun, and the usual thing, you present yourself and what you do for your business, and of course everybody, their minds and their ears and their eyes peaked up when I told them what I do. And then of course, since that I do what I do, it really makes sense that I'm able to address everybody by name when I meet them. And so I met someone named Don and Simon and Sherry and so forth. I can go through the whole list, but the point is that it's just a great opportunity not to show off, not to do anything that is, off-putting or makes you seem egotistical, but it's actually an opportunity to interest people in how their own brain works. And I met another person named Mary who was from Canada also, actually, and she does neuroscience and neuroscientific research, and just being able to talk intelligently about how the brain works and people listening in, and it's just incredible. It's incredible. But it was an interesting opportunity getting into the elevator with a bunch of people, some of whom I hadn't even met yet. So there was someone named Ruth and someone named Chris. And so we got into the elevator. One of the people that got into the elevator, he said, there's that moment when you get in and the whole elevator goes silent. Why is that? And I said, well, actually, it's because all of the stimuli has completely changed. And if you were doing stunts like remembering people's names, you'd better repeat it right then and there, because that is the kind of thing that could knock it out, even though you've used memory techniques. So I just started to name all their names, and it was just hilarious. But the whole point is, and that's a huge tip for you, is that one of the reasons why you struggle to remember names is because not even that you've not used memory techniques, but you've entered a new room. And then the temperature changes, the sounds change, the feeling beneath your feet changes, and your body has to account for all that stuff. Your brain has to account for all that stuff, and it can knock information out really, really quickly. And so if you want to hold on to that information, you want to not lose it, then that's a moment, you don't have to do it out loud, but that's a moment to repeat the information that you had in your mind in order to help reconsolidate it, because that can knock it out, all of that new stuff. So that just happened here. I made a joke out of it because everybody was remarking upon these memory techniques that I was talking about and then demonstrating. And I pointed out, you've got to be on. If you're in this business, it's the blessing and the curse, is you got to be on all the time. The proof is always in the pudding. So it was a lot of fun to be there and to just go out, exercise the brain, meet new people. This creates chemicals in the brain. We know this. It's very, very healthy, and a lot of people are starved from that. And by not using memory techniques, you're starving yourself of great mental practice. And the risk can be high, as it is for me, or it can be low for you, because you don't necessarily have to actually share with anyone that you remembered their names. But if you're going to, then you should always take the opportunity, if it's there and people are interested, to tell them a little bit about what you did and how you did it, because the more people who are using these techniques, the better the world is going to be. And someone named Mike was really, really interested in how these techniques could apply to businesses where they are seeing people having more and more struggles with remembering information, and they are the ones who are making decisions based on big data, right? And if you can't remember even just small amounts of information, how are you supposed to juggle what you're doing with big data, right? Like, the machines can only do so much, and there's a flavor to information that you can only detect when you hold enough of it in your mind. And I often think of, I don't drink alcohol, but I often think of information as a kind of wine that you can roll around in your mind, like you roll around wine in your mouth, to get a real taste for it, a real sense of the components of the information, and to deepen it and to connect it to different things. So, someone who's a wine expert would then think about the soil that the wine came from, or maybe what season the crop was taken, what part of the season, and so forth. And you can only think those thoughts if you have expertise and that you have enough consumption that you've held on to in order to have the basis of comparison. And that even relates to names, Like if you have a whole index of people that you've met named Don or Steve or whatever the case may be, you're so much more qualified and able to think more about people and not what names mean as such, but then connect more people that you're meeting. And these are the tools of memory. So, Don Rickles and Don Cherry, and I had a girlfriend once whose middle name was Dawn, and just that's a different spelling of Dawn and so forth. But these chains of association are great mental exercise in and of themselves. You hold on to more of your past, and the more of your past that you have, the more you have tools to build a future. Build the future of your brain, build the future of your learning projects, and the more people you know and the more people you meet and you remember, the more you can use them to help stimulate and support your learning projects in the future. So it really pays to have these techniques in order. It really pays to practice them and use them, and it really, really pays to be someone who can explain to others what it is that you're doing and how you're doing it, because you learn the techniques better yourself, and you also are supporting the education of other people so that they can get information into their mind. And it doesn't matter what that information is, it is very, very much connectable to other levels of information that you can enjoy and appreciate and use to enable yourself to learn at a higher level, at a better level, and just to be a better citizen, which is the most important thing in the world, especially as we're combating things like digital amnesia and enabling ourselves to survive. We know that memory is such a huge part of survival. If you haven't heard my interview with Lynn Kelly, who wrote The Memory Code, you've got to check that out. She demonstrates beyond belief that these memory techniques are way older than we originally thought. Location-based mnemonics, other kinds of object-based mnemonics and so forth. And not only that, but that memory is so tied to survival. It's going to be even more tied to survival, because those who are able to preserve the functioning of the human brain without having it overridden by digital amnesia and the twitchiness of notifications and so forth, and who can concentrate better than other people, they're going to be the ones who win. They're going to be the ones who survive better. So memory is still connected to survival, even with all the fanciest of the fancy softwares remembering for you. It can't remember it for you wholesale, so to speak, if you know the reference I'm making there. And it never will, because the human brain and the human body is always going to be something that is not a machine, that is not part of software. And if it is integrated in software to the point that we actually are born with technology, and technology becomes part of the genetic code and so forth, well, that's not human anymore anyway, so we don't have to worry about that. But as long as we are here having the brains that we have and so forth, those who really honor it, cherish it, treasure it, exercise it, use it, make connections in the brain, they're going to be the ones who do the best in life. And it's so simple to just learn these techniques, to be more creative, to extend it to critical thinking, to higher levels of decision making, and really enable yourself to, how can we say this? To be a person of the world, a person who knows the world, who knows aspects of the world, maybe not at an expert level, but with a certain level of expertise and a panache for knowledge, and a scientific panache for knowledge, a scientific level of knowledge, a scientific understanding of the great asset that you have in your own memory, testing it and verifying it, validating it, and optimizing it through the use of your memory. So that is always my primary goal. It's not only to teach you the techniques, but to inspire you to use them and to make sure that you're using them authentically, scientifically, and being your own scientist in the laboratory of your brain, because your brain is the only brain that you've got, and you're the only one who can have it, and you're the only one who can use it. And so every minute that you're not using your brain is just lost. I'd really like to help you use it at a higher level. So if you haven't taken my free course over at magneticmemorymethod.com, If you haven't listened to any of the episodes of the podcast over there, what are you waiting for? The mind that you have is the only one that you have, and you're the only one who can have it. So why not optimize it? I'd be delighted to help. I help you create memory palaces. I help you use memory palaces. You can learn and remember anything that you want, rattle off names, foreign language vocabulary. People make the mistake of thinking that this and that information is somehow special or different or more difficult or whatever. And at some levels, there are differences between kinds and sets of information, but there's also more similarities. If you can get those similarities sorted, you understand what memory techniques can do for you, and you just simply use them, then you're going to be able to remember and recall anything, turn it into knowledge, and feel the flavors, taste the flavors, feel the connections, understand the connections, and then you're going to create new knowledge, and you're going to become an asset to your society at a much higher level than without them. So rush on over there and get that at magneticmemorymethod.com. It's right there on the main page, and check out some of the episodes of the podcast. If you like to read, it's all written for you as well. I really appreciate the time that we got to spend today, and these eyeballs, they're going to be very useful to me in a memory palace, coming to a brain near me, which is mine. And so I really encourage you to look in the world around you and see what you can use to help you be more creative, because that's the beauty of the memory techniques, is that there's more than enough creativity out there in the world if you don't feel creative enough yet yourself. You've just got to harness it. You just got to notice it and observe it. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's unbelievable. Memory palaces are everywhere, and the fuel that you need to make the information run and stay and get encoded in your long-term memory is everywhere. So this is Anthony Metivier from magneticmemorymethod.com. Come visit me over at the site, and until we speak again, keep yourself magnetic.